Welcome back to Lower Keys Living, everybody, and welcome to one of our favorite reef spots to fish. Here on this little slot, we're in about 33 feet of water, a nice sandy bottom in this spot. It's a little slot between the reefs that I'll show you here in a second. And I've talked about this spot before, one of our favorite spots to go, and you'll see why here in just a few minutes. I will show you exactly where we're at and what is going on. So that little island off left, that's Pelican Shoals. It's underwater, high tide, and that circle is right where we're answered. And it's an amazing little slot in between the reefs here. So on an outgoing tide, the fish wait at the bottom of that just to see what comes on out. And almost right away, we've got yellowtail happening. This is just, it barely got the chum line in, and the yellowtail were already coming to the boat. This little guy we tossed back, but ended up with a few keeper yellowtail this evening out here. And at the same time, my wife had dropped a little half-ounce slipper head jig down to the bottom with a piece of squid on it, and brought up a little tiny, maybe a 4-inch strawberry grouper. Got him off the line, left him in the water, make sure he was recovering and swimming back down to his buddies. But again, this is one of the reasons I love this spot. There's such a crazy variety of fish that we always catch right in here. A little bit of everything going on. So after about 20 minutes of chum in, we did run into massive amounts of ballyhoo. Wish I had my throw net, could have stocked up on some bait again. Gotta remember to just keep that thing on board. Problem with the ballyhoo is we use shrimp when we're fishing for yellowtail, and they're like little termites. They just gnaw away at that shrimp on the hook, and you don't even realize they've eaten it away. So got to keep checking it. But again, talk about variety. Here's a little porgy my wife picked up off the bottom of that slipperhead jig. Just part of the variety out here. So this is the start of our weekend out here on a Friday evening, just off of Pelican Shoals. This spot easy to find on satellite if you're looking to get here. Always lots of action, especially if you've got kids on board. You like a nice busy weekend, get them having a lot of fun fishing. Great spot. Saturday morning had a beautiful start of the day. Glassy water heading on out. I'm just zipping on out here, and you can just see how smooth it is. Here I'm already about 7 miles offshore, heading out. I'm going to start out at the edge of the Gulf Stream, troll that for a little bit to see if there's life there along that. And my plan was, because the water was so beautiful, is just to keep heading south all the way out to sea until I find some signs of life, something to fish along, anything going. Just going to take advantage of an amazing day like this. Kind of live for water like this out here. Just fun to run the boat wide open. So here you can see that green line is about where the edge of the Gulf Stream was. I did troll that for about 45 minutes, got nothing on that. So I headed all the way out to the ledge where we go from 900 feet down to about 1,700, 2,000 feet there at the bottom. It's 27 miles out. I trolled that ledge for a while, zigzagging back and forth across the top, got nothing. So I ended up heading back on in, and I came across this big float out here, had about 8 feet of line hanging off the bottom. So I was really hopeful this would be holding a wahoo or some mahi on here. It was the only thing I saw this far out forever. Didn't see really any other debris, so I thought for sure this would hold something. And yep, sure enough, it did. Got a fish on. First time going past it. It was pretty light, so I was figuring it was going to be a small mahi, but I figured if it was, I'd go back and jig that, see if there are any bigger mahi around there, or even go a little deeper. You can see right between the two rods, you can see the fish on the surface on the left, bringing this in. And as I got it closer, I realized it was not a mahi, but it was a calico jack. So these calico jacks actually are really good eating fish. A lot of people don't bother with these because they're going for bigger fish, but we call these our taco fish. We're more than happy to grill these up or fry them up and use them for fish tacos. So getting this guy on board after having spent several hours with no look, I was happy to have something on board. He was a decent sized calico jack, so I ended up pocketing him. So I ended up heading in a little further. I did pull that float out of the water. I don't leave junk like that with a rope in the water. But you look directly between the two rods. You can see I've got a good fish on here right between the two rods in the center, just off the prop wash, about 50 yards back. This turned out to be a small tuna, maybe 2 pounds. So once I got him on board, I was really excited that I might be able to find some bigger tuna in here. but that was not to be on this day. Kept picking up calico jacks, a few other different varieties of jacks in here, but it was an active current line. You can see that smooth water just off the right-hand side of the picture here. So I was just trolling the edge of that, picked this guy up, went back to exactly where I picked that one up, and you'll see here showing up in just a second in the middle of the screen. Got another one on. But this again, right in the middle of the screen, it was a little bit bigger calico jack, so I ended up boating another calico jack. So just knew Saturday night was going to be fish taco night. So never complained about that. And again, don't ignore these calico jacks. I know a lot of people do, but I was actually happy to get them on board, knowing we'd be having some fresh fish for dinner, even though it wasn't what I was going for. Figured it still was going to work. Here I'm just trolling along. In a second, you can see here, I just throw the engines in reverse. I just bring the boat to a dead stop, put these engines in neutral, double check to make sure they're in neutral, because I came over the top or right up on this great big ball of rope floating in the water, and I can see some triple tail underneath there. So I thought I'd try and stop and see if I couldn't get a triple tail on board. I had one line out that I was trolling at this time. So I'm bringing that in, and then I actually noticed something large chasing this lure in. Couldn't tell what it was till it got a little closer. Right just back then, right between the engines, you can see it. And you'll be able to see in between the engines here in a second. It was a big shark followed this in. I'm pretty sure it was a bull shark, but didn't get a close look at it. But then you see this rope ball, and as I'm bringing my lure right up to it, right in here, there's a little triple tail, one of the smaller ones that was in there chasing my lure. And you can see another one coming out front of this rope ball, but there's a couple of really big ones in here. So I was pretty hopeful, feeling pretty optimistic that I'd be able to land one of these triple tail. That was not to be. I'll be upfront, did not get a triple tail. I did throw some shrimp in here because the triple tail seemed to love the shrimp. So you see I'm grabbing a couple of shrimp, and I bring these along even when I'm out trolling, just in case I run across something that's holding triple tail, try and draw those out. And they did come out and grab that shrimp right away. And I had tried to put some shrimp on a hook, but there were so many calico jacks. When I started doing that, the calico jacks, once they realized what was coming in the water, they were all over it. So here you can see on the rod on the right-hand side, I've got one of those little yellow slipper jigs on. And I don't even bother putting bait on it because I've been able to get triple tails just using that jig before. And again, I'm right on top of that rope ball. It's right alongside the boat. So I'm just dropping this little jig head in just out in front of them, trying to get them on. But after the first couple of shrimp I put in there, the calico jacks were just in an absolute feeding frenzy. Now, I have a blast. I am super happy just catching anything. Yep, I have more fun if it's a great big mahi or a wahoo or tuna. But I'm catching fish. I am having a great time out here right now, especially after having been trolling for a few hours with hardly any luck at all. Figure more than happy to be catching fish. Again, if you're out and you've got kids on the boat and you can come across something floating in the water or a weed spot that has a lot of calico jack, so much fun for the kids. Well, and actually the big kid in me just loves being able to consistently catch a fish every time you drop a line in the water. So don't ignore these spots. Have fun. And again, if you haven't tried them before, try the calico jacks. They're a bit of a pain to clean. You get small fillets, but they are a really good eating fish. I do fish this spot probably for half an hour, really trying to get those triple tail. Never had any luck. The calicos were just swarming. You can see here I'll pitch that little slipper head back towards it, and almost immediately as it hits the water, you'll be able to see the water boil over my right-hand shoulder here in a second of all the calicos just coming after this little jig, just bouncing it along the surface. You can see right there, they're all over it. Get another one. So again, like I said, I spent some time fishing this, trying to get those triple tail, but also having a blast just catching these calicos. After I had enough calicos for an evening without having to spend my whole evening cleaning little fish, decided to jet back in. Gonna try again tomorrow, find some other spots. But again, had an absolutely wonderful day out enjoying this flat water. So didn't get the fish that I wanted. Hopefully next weekend we'll bring you some bigger fish on board and the target fish. But in the meantime, enjoy. Thanks for visiting us here at Lower Keys Living. See you next week.